Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Summit High School Student Candidate Forum, where we're talking to candidates for Summit School Board. And we have 8 of 9 candidates with us today. And this will be the format for today. My name's Phil Lindeman. I'm with Crystal 93. So thanks for Summit High for having me out here to host this forum. But really, it's the students that are hosting this. The questions came from the students. The students will be asking the questions, and the candidates will have the chance to go ahead and answer. And we have 2 rounds of questions. First, we will start with a minute each for our candidates to go ahead and come up, introduce themselves, why they're running for board, and then we will get on to the student questions. We've got 5 of our students today coming up to ask these questions, and they will be giving them individually to each of the candidates. Candidates, you will have 2 minutes to answer your question until we move on to the next one. So we'll start right now with candidate intros. We'll be starting with Toby Babich. Toby, come on up, and everybody, you got 1 minute to tell us about yourself.
All right, thanks, Phil, and thanks to you guys for putting this on. I usually find adults really boring to talk to, so I enjoy this forum and you guys putting it on and letting us be here with you today. Toby Babich, I'm a former SSD student at the Breck Elementary and Summit Middle School. 12 years I've lived here as a father, 24 total. As a student in this district, I struggled academically, socially, and at home with no father and a mother with mental health and substance abuse problems. I know what it's like to be alone, isolated, and need support from a school district to assist me in achieving my goals. I know what it's like to be left behind, but I also know what it's like to succeed despite overwhelming challenges with the help of a good school district. Each student of this district has unlimited potential to achieve their passions and dreams. And through the support of parents, teachers, in this community, we have the resources to support them. I want to see each student here achieve regardless of socioeconomic factors, race, sexual orientation, religion, familial issues, or learning challenges. My goal as a Summit School District Board of Director, member, I wasn't looking at you, Tim. I want to see you guys succeed. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay? Great. Well, good morning, and thank you for hosting us. Really thrilled to be here with you, the students. I'm sure I speak for every single one of us when I say you're the reason why we're doing this, so thank you for hosting us today. My name is Guarino. I moved here in 2002, originally to teach snowboarding at the Breckenridge Ski and Ride School, and I did that for several seasons. I'm now the parent of a Frisco Elementary student, and my wife is the early childhood registrar that works at Central Admin, helping place all the kids from the community into our preschool programs. I'm a construction project manager. I've managed over $1 billion in budgets all over the country. Included in that is about $130 million in improvements that I've managed in all of our school buildings on behalf of the Summit School District, including 2 renovations on this building right here and even this auditorium. Back in 2008, I worked on the CTE wing and then most recently on the indoor turf field. So I believe in supporting you. I believe in career and technical education. I believe in equitable systems for all, and I believe in student success. So thank you for having us here today.
Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Kate Hudnut. I am a parent. I am the proud mom of a Summit High School sophomore. I am dedicated to your education, for helping you guys get back on your feet. We know we've gone through an incredibly difficult year through COVID. We know that it's impacted all of you and all of our families and community in different ways. Focusing on mental health, focusing on what you guys need in terms of your schedules, your sports, the arts, all of the things that go into the incredible education that you're receiving here at the high school. I have a lot more to say, and we'll have an opportunity because I have 10 seconds now, Mr. Ritter says. I'm just honored to be here. I was really excited to receive your questions, and I look forward to having a little bit more of a chat with you shortly. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. I'm very honored to be standing up here in front of you guys. My name is Johanna Kugler. I am an educator, a mother, a wife, an employee in this community, a community member, and an advocate for children and families. I have on the ground and in the field experience, mastery level knowledge about education, 14 years of being in this community. My foot has already been in the door. I started in July of 2021 already on the Board of Education, and I have over 20 years of experience and passion and commitment and dedication to children and families. On a side note, I'm a mother of 3 kiddos who go to Dillon Valley Elementary, so I'm very proud of that. I just really want to point out that I think our education is a partnership, and we look at the child as the expert on themselves, and I will always see that. The parent is an expert on their family, and our teachers are experts in the field. And in order for us to thrive and for you to thrive, we need all 3 to work together. Thank you.
I'm Kim Langley, and I have 2 boys in the school district. I grew up in a really small town in North Dakota. I had 12 people in my graduating class. To get out of that small town, I enlisted in the Air Force when I was 18. It was the greatest decision that I ever made. After 6 years of being in the Air Force, I received an Air Force ROTC scholarship to go to the University of San Diego and get my education. And then a few years later, after I graduated with my undergrad, I got my master's degree. I had some really cool jobs in the Air Force. I managed multi-million-dollar contracts. I helped launch and check out satellites. And my last job was teaching ROTC cadets at CU Boulder. I lived all over the United States, was able to travel the world, and I've been coming to Summit County for about 25 years. It's always been a dream to settle down here. Unfortunately, the Air Force doesn't assign people to resort towns. I'm running for the board because I feel that education is very, very important. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Manuela Michaels, and I live in Breckenridge since 2011 for 11 years. I'm from Brazil originally. I moved to the United States in 2004, and I got my citizenship in 2008. And I have 2 kids in the district, and since I was in Brazil in high school, we have English as like you learn Spanish here. So that was my only English that I had before I moved here. So after I moved here, I practiced my English skills and learning and understanding. And I don't have any family members here, just me. All my family's in Brazil. And I understand the struggles that those kids that have English as second language have. I understand those struggles. And it's hard. I understand it's hard to learn English. And I want to help the parents and the students to have a resource to learn and be great citizens. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name's Danielle. I'm part of the slate for the kids. I've been in Summit County for a little over 3 years, going into my 4th year at Frisco Elementary with my 2 kids. Little background, I graduated from University of Florida with a bachelor's degree in anthropology. Then from there I went into the Peace Corps. I lived in Africa for 2 years. Totally amazing experience, highly recommend it. You need to have a college degree or technical skill to override that. So if you get the chance, do it. I went on to get a master's degree in education and instructional leadership. I'm running for school board because I think Summit School District can do better, and I'm running for you guys. Thanks.
Thanks for hosting this forum again today. My name's Lisa Webster. I'm a proud product of public education. I'm a retired Air Force pilot. I've been in the Summit for 11 years as a full-time resident, and as well as my family. My son is a senior this year at Summit High. When I was little, my mom told me that if I worked hard and got a good education, I could do anything. And I believed her. And I just want you to know part of the role as a board is to believe in you all. And that belief may not be visible, and that belief is compounded with belief from your principals, from your teachers, from our community. We just have huge hopes for you all, and we're hoping that we are providing a system that will get you to where you want to be as adults. Thank you.
Yeah, and now on to the main event. We'll be having our students come up to ask questions of our school board candidates. And again, candidates, you have 2 minutes to answer the question. Principal Tim, will be right here giving you the time. We'll start with Liliana Lopez, and she will have a question for Lisa Webster.
What specifically would you advocate for and why?
So recently in Chalkbeat, there was an article about a Nobel Prize on research linking funding to education success, meaning that money matters for schools. What it showed was that better resource schools, better prepared teachers, resulted in better outcomes for students as adults in our economy. So what I've done in the past when I served on the school board before was advocate for better funding in Colorado. Colorado has an antiquated funding formula right now that doesn't fund us adequately or equitably across our 178 school districts. That's what I would look to advocate for. And then also with that, to bring more programs that would be suited for what you need for next steps in the future. I can't say 21st century because we're about a quarter of the way through, but what skills do we want you to have so you're successful as adults? That's what I would advocate for in addition to funding to making our schools stronger. Thank you.
And now we have Allie Adkins with a question for Danielle Surette.
What specifically would you advocate for and why?
I don't like reading, but I will to get it all in. I would advocate most importantly for the kids, also the parents and the teachers. They all need to come together and work together for things to run smoothly. My main goal is to get students back on track academically and encourage students to learn to think critically. In order to do this, we need all hands on deck. We need parents to partner with teachers and see where they might need support. And teachers and board members should seek feedback from the parents in order to improve. It's a two-way street. As a board member, I would work with the parents in the community to see what they want, not on my own personal agendas. We should be hearing our thoughts before we make any important decisions. When I lived in Denver, the school my son attended ran like a well-oiled machine. I attribute this to the high standards that they set. The parents, the staff, and the teachers all worked diligently together to make the school great. They did not settle for anything less. Being below average or mediocre was not acceptable. You could see the energy reflected in the school every day. They constantly strive for excellence. We have a little bit of work to do here, but I do know that Summit School District can be great as well. Thank you.
Now, Taylor Talio with a question for Manuela Michaels.
How would you connect with students and staff to help them understand how they are being influenced by your decisions and viewpoint?
If I get elected, I will promote holding regular meetings with teachers and staff, including bus drivers, to know what they think about the current policies, and to know what we can do to improve and help them. I would also sit in the classes in all the schools and try to meet as many students and staff as I can. In this campaign, we have met with teachers, principals, the academic officers, the bus drivers, and we have knocked on over 800 doors. I would keep doing that hard work because it's the only way to know what concerns people have and know how to help them. Thank you.
And now Olivia Lyman with a question for Kim Langley.
What specifically would you advocate for and why?
The Four for the Kids slate has taught 5 top priorities. They are academics, fiscal responsibility, teacher retention, transparency, and mental health. Most of you probably know that Summit has had a 5-year decline in academic achievement. That's our #1 priority because parents are telling us that it needs to get turned around. One of the main things we would focus on is freeing up teachers to focus on academics. We've talked to many teachers, and they say they are spending a tremendous amount of time doing paperwork and things that aren't necessarily related to teaching. They also say that the central office doesn't always support them. In the Air Force, we call pilots and the guys that actually are out in combat the tip of the spear. That's how I feel about teachers. They are the ones doing the hard work, dealing with you all, and everyone else needs to support them. Another area I would advocate for is making sure we are managing the budget. We need to spend our money on your education and lifting kids that are struggling. We have many kids in Summit who have learning disabilities and many more who are not being diagnosed. I would use that money to hire more teachers or aides who can directly help kids that are struggling. But I wouldn't forget the high achievers. We need our brightest students to be challenged and to get them into the best schools or academies. In Boulder, there's a school called Scott Carpenter Elementary. Scott Carpenter was a famous astronaut, and he's a source of pride for that school. Summit needs to make sure their Scott Carpenters are pushed literally to the heavens. Thank you.
We have now Avery Eitel with a question for Johanna Kugler.
What kind of relationship should the school board have with its community?
When I think of the word relationship, I think of reciprocal. It goes both ways. It's not a top-down with direction. It's also not just sitting there and being an inactive listener. It's being engaged at all parts. So I would expect that that relationship would continue growing and always being flexible and changing as our atmosphere and our community, our schools, and our families are always constantly changing as well. I think that those relationships are really important when we're talking about with our community because as a school board member, you are looking at your constituency, which is your parents, your teachers, the children, and all taxpayers. So everyone has a play in the game, but ultimately we have to come together to look at what strategies we're using to move people forward. And we're not just one set of children. We're not just one set of parents. We're not one community. There's many, many aspects, and we have to really involve all different voices to be able to participate. I would make sure that we're advocating for teachers and the support staff for our children and the many avenues that they can take for not just graduation, but at every level, all the way from preschool up through graduation. I do think that we have to hold each other accountable and use all voices to be able to look at that accountability, look at benchmarks, and participate and be a leader at all opportunities. So lead from all seats. And what I mean by that is a child who shows up at a club can be a leader. A community member who never steps foot in the school but works on housing is a leader and a voice. A parent who goes to the DAC meetings, they are a leader. And so every person has an opportunity to lead, to provide a voice for getting this relationship moving our work forward. Thank you.
And we had 5 students today that were helping ask questions, so we'll be repeating now. We got Liliana again, now with a question for Kate Hudnut.
What kind of relationship should the school board have with its community?
Thank you for the question. So I'm in a bit of a unique role here. I have been on the board now for 4 years. I started in November of 2017. And I will just briefly reflect when I go back to my notebook, probably, I don't know, well, I've gone through probably 40. My first notebook, when I first was interested in running for the board, I was passionate about transparency and communication. And you may hear that from every member up here, every candidate. It's something that we're all passionate about, is how we are connecting with our 3,600 students, their parents, our educators, over 500 people teaching you guys and their buildings. It's a really big job. And I will say that when I first started, I was one of the first school board members in Summit School District who embraced social media. It was kind of the brave new world, which sounds ridiculous only 4 years ago. Is a way, honestly, for us to share out our agendas, to share out our conversations, to bring in opportunities, to let parents know where they could volunteer in the classroom or volunteer on a committee. It was also an opportunity to engage with kids. I'm sure that you guys don't follow me on social media, and that's okay. But it was an opportunity for us to, really get feedback, from all of our constituents. So with that, I will say, it is a flowing conversation. It is not something that is tried and true. We try social media. We try advisory boards. We try town halls. We try mentoring. I mentored with the pre-collegiate group here at the high school for a number of years here on different ways to listen and really bring a voice from the students to this platform. I just want you guys to know that we're always open for dialogue and opportunities to connect with you, and that was one theme I saw in all of your questions is, how can we do a better job and how can we be more involved? So thank you again for your great questions.
And Allie Atkins now, again, with a question for Chris Guarino.
How would you connect with students and staff to help them understand how they are being influenced by your decisions and viewpoint?
Well, thank you for the question, and I appreciate one of the comments that was just made about a two-way dialogue. I think it would be very important, and actually one of my main priorities is to focus on being an active listener. And what that means is not just hear people, but truly listen to them, understand them, and know where they're coming from. So I wouldn't stand up here and tell you I know the exact way that's going to be the best for us to communicate with each other. So what I will do is I will be open to working with you to define what that should look like. I want to hear from you about, what do you think is the best way to connect with our students? Perhaps we should do a rotating board member that every time there's a student council meeting, one of the board members should attend. And perhaps we should do more kind of coffee with the board, get to know a member, where we come and have lunch or something here at the school, and we're just open to any dialogue with you and your teachers. I would be respectful at the same time. As a board member, we're truly not allowed to micromanage what teachers do in the classroom. But I would want to listen, and I would want to hear from the teachers, and then take whatever I hear from you guys and your teachers and bring that back to the superintendent's office and really advocate for you and work with the superintendent to define what would be best to roll out at all of our school buildings. So really, transparency, communication, and listening and building trust between each other is really where my top priorities lie. So one of the first things I'll promise you that I'd be open to doing is learning together and hearing from you what you think would be the best way to connect with you all, and then I would commit my time to participating in that activity. So thank you so much. I believe I'm a consensus builder, and I want to work together to build consensus amongst what you want, what your teachers are doing, and what the school district policies are requiring. So thank you very much.
And we've got our final question now for round one, the softball questions. Taylor to Leo with a question for Toby Babich.
How would you connect with students and staff to help them understand how they are being influenced by your decisions and viewpoint?
All right, process of elimination here. I appreciate this question, and I really think I like to view it almost inverse of the way it's asked. I want your input to influence my decisions and viewpoint, and I think that's what the board is here to do. One of the practices that I would like to see the district continue and expand on is the community listening sessions that occurred in spring of 2021. These sessions led to a lot of valuable insights and opinions directly from teachers, staff, and students pertaining to what they would desire from the district to improve their experience and outcome. I think surveys are valuable, but they don't tell the true human story of the Summit School District community. Personal engagement is really critical to really hearing the voice of our constituencies and allowing direct access to the Summit School District Board of Directors so we can have a meaningful dialogue with the student population. I do not believe in making decisions in an echo chamber or from the top down. They need to be made in a collaborative environment. I would like to see the school district commit to having a listening session at least every 3 months with the student population, which would inform our policy, short and long-term strategy, and curriculum. Additionally, I would like to see a better direct feedback channels between students, parents, and teachers to foster a more collaborative environment where all the constituencies are participating in education for the best outcome for each student. Thank you.
Yeah, Toby, we'll have you stay up here. Now we're on to round two. That was round one. And yeah, round one. Good questions about communication, and especially how these board members will be working for you, for everybody who comes to school every single day. So we'll see where round two takes us. We'll have round two kicked off with Toby Babich taking the question from Avery Eitel.
What resources would you like to provide teachers for their own mental health and also dealing with students' mental health?
Thank you, Avery. I'm actually glad I got this question. Mental health is a huge priority for me across the district. Mental health focus for students and teachers. The district's been doing some great work, but I think we need to be a little bit more active, engaged, and have visible mental health resources. Many of us, as I said in the prior forum, suffer in silence, whether we are parents, teachers, or students. And in that environment, it can be very confusing and difficult to figure out who to reach out to for help, and how to go about trying to heal yourselves. I'd like to see more resources in the schools, counselors, mentors, support groups for students, where we can all work together to identify needs and provide resources. I'd like to engage parents to assess concerns at home and work together to provide the support across both the home and the school. These are the house and the school are two completely different environments, and as parents, we don't always have insight into what's going on in the school. Teenagers are historically really quiet with their parents in the teenage years, and there's a lot more exposure to the teachers here, and they have a different viewpoint, and I think we need to work together. Building Hope in Summit County has a really wonderful program called the Mental Health First Aid Program. I think we should look at offering that as part of our curriculum here. and preferably as a requirement over the first 2 years of schooling. That program is described as having the tools to identify when someone is in a crisis and knowing how to respond can truly save lives. Providing mental health education to our community also provides an opportunity to reduce stigma by presenting the facts about mental health. Debunking common myths around mental health and discussing the topic of mental health in an open, honest, and judgment-free way.
And now Olivia Lyman again with a question for Chris Guarino.
How will you work on promoting equity for our students who are learning English as a second language?
Well, thank you for the question. If you've heard me in any of the forums or read any of the articles or anything I've participated in, equitable systems for all is something that's really important for me. I'm a second-generation American. My family, my grandparents immigrated here from Italy. And I know some horrible stories about my family just trying to integrate into this country not very long ago. Terrible stories about my grandfather trying to get a job in New York City, where I was born and raised. And I really understand what it feels like to not feel welcomed or accepted. I don't believe that's the case entirely in our community here. I think our community embraces our English language learners, and I think our school district does. So just some of the things I would do is I would vow to be more present in our English language learning community. I would want everyone to feel really welcomed and a part of this school district. We are a public school district. We're here to serve every member of the public. So I would be very present, even in the most marginalized areas of our community. I would focus on listening and learning to our English language learning families. And I would really work with our district, our superintendent, and our policies to expand, frankly, what we're doing with the dual language programs. I think there's some great successes around the district, and I think we could expand upon that and grow it into all levels and really, frankly, give every student a chance to participate. So at my core, this is something that's very important to me, and it would absolutely be one of my top priorities to make sure every student in this school district has equitable systems to build upon. So yes, I would be present, I would be a partner with the families and our students, and I would do everything I can on your behalf. So thank you.
Taylor Toledo again now with a question for Kate Hudnut.
What resources would you like to provide teachers for their own mental health and also dealing with student mental health?
Thank you for the question. Mental health is a subject that is very close to me. I will say that the last year and a half have been extraordinarily difficult for many of us, as I mentioned in my opening remarks. Our board invested a large amount of our ESSER 3 funds, which may sound like some sort of weird acronym. That's big money we got from the federal government this year to get us back on our feet. We knew it was super important to invest in our teachers when we had our negotiations with our teachers last spring. This was the time to give raises. This was the time to look at additional supports for mental health as they came back into the buildings full time. We knew we would have children, students who had been through incredible struggles, who had potentially lost family members, lost income, lost contact with their friends. We knew that was going to be a very important thing this year. So we brought in additional supports here at the high school. We have some new staff that is overseeing our programs. I am going to guess by your question that there is never enough. I believe Toby touched on Building Hope, which is one of our amazing community partners. I'm very proud that I worked for the Family and Intercultural Resource Center, the FERC. When Building Hope was formed, we knew it was a crisis in our community. We knew it was an opportunity for us to lean in with the incredible, generous support of our community to get our staff and our kids the help that they need. It's not ever something we will check the box on. It is something we will continually revisit, continually invest in, and continually get feedback on how it's going. So thank you for the question.
Allie Atkins now with a question for Johanna Kugler.
How can we offer better resources to students to make sure they succeed in post-secondary ventures?
I'm grateful for the last couple of years bringing attention to multiple pathways for post-secondary success. My generation everyone had to go to college, and not everyone was meant to go to college. Before that, you could talk about maybe mentor programs. I think that we need to look at all pathways in high school, middle school, and even elementary school based on people's excitement, what they're interested in learning about, their passions, but also what they're good at, too. I'm really excited about the graduate profile because we're not just leaving kids ready with a report card and that's it. We're looking at, are they ready to be an active citizen in this community? Are they ready to engage in questions? Are they thinking about how they're involved in the world and how the world affects and contributes to their life? So I think that the more areas that we can look outside of just the classroom would be wonderful. I love the fact that you guys already have classes like Early Childhood 101, and then at the end of the day, kids can come and participate in local childcare centers. That's just one opportunity. I like the idea of having more coaching involved, mentorships, looking at, again, what you're good at, or you're interested in and can become good at, because every person when you leave here is going to still be a member of the society, and so how can you contribute? How can you be involved in your world? And so looking at asking those questions from an IB perspective and really digging deep and finding out what is that post-secondary education that we can look at? What can we do? What resources do you need? Because we can stand up here and say we know based on surveys, but do we actually know everything and all the gaps that you have? It's constantly changing, it's fluid, and so how can we have that open communication to help you get the resources that you need? Thank you.
Now we have Liliana Lopez with a second question for Kim Langley.
How can we implement mental health supports that can actually be utilized by students?
Well, I am definitely not an expert on mental health, but I'm learning fast. When I first went into the Air Force, there was a negative culture about mental health. If you had a mental problem, you just never mentioned it. You could lose your security clearance, and that meant you could lose your job. I worked with a woman when I was stationed at Los Angeles Air Force Base in California. One day at work, after her boyfriend broke up with her, she had gotten into a car accident after driving drunk. She hinted to me that she was going to refill all of her depression medication so that she could get the job done right. I was very concerned about her, and one of the hardest things that I ever had to do was ask her if she was going to take her life. It was difficult to bring up, but it had to be done. She told me she was thinking about it, and we immediately went to the mental health clinic on base. This was one of the things where leadership was lacking, and awareness of mental health needed to be taught to everybody. The Air Force culture eventually changed dramatically, and we started having quarterly training sessions on mental health, how to recognize issues, and how to get help without any impact to anyone's career. I think Summit should make sure we are doing similar type things. We need the teachers and students to be trained on how to recognize the signs and feel comfortable asking the tough questions. We need to make sure there's no stigma attached to mental health issues. And we must provide the support necessary to anybody that needs it: students, teachers, admin, bus drivers, or anybody else. Again, mental health is one of our top 5 priorities. We are taking it very seriously. Thank you.
And we'll have Avery Eitel again with a question for Manuela Michaels.
What areas do you think last year's superintendent and school board could have improved upon, and what is your plan to address them and fill in these gaps?
I'm not sure the last superintendent of the board had academics as their, or the board had academics as their highest priority. I understand that COVID was a big issue, but it seemed to many parents but it seemed to many parents that there was no effort going into academics. Now the new superintendent seems to be very concerned with the academics and the falling CEMS test scores. I think this is the right priority. The board needs to be on the same page and help the superintendent implement academic focus policies. A special interest to me is our English as a second language students. COVID affected them more than any other students because many of their parents either couldn't help them or didn't have the resource to help them, especially online. As you can tell, English is my primary language, and I've struggled since I came to the United States with language barriers. I will do everything I can and use my experience to help these kids. The kids that have the second language, they are second language students. Thank you.
Getting down towards the end now. 2 more questions. We have Olivia Lyman with a question for Danielle Surette.
How can we implement mental health supports that can actually be utilized by students?
So I guess I have a lot of questions. I would like to know what this current situation is. Do we have counselors at the school? Do we have counselors available for teachers? How does that kind of work? Do students start this process and go and meet with the counselor, or is that set up by the teacher? I definitely think that it's important to have lots of support, and I think we need to make more connections, especially within our community. I was looking last night for parent support groups, student support groups, and I didn't really come up with much. I think we need to implement that throughout our schools, especially throughout our community. People need a place to come and be able to speak freely without judgment. And that's true for everyone, I think. So more connection between all of our community members. Also, when I was in high school, we had something called a peer counseling session, which was like a class where students would come and they would just sit around in a circle and talk about, whatever was bothering them that day, and it was extremely helpful. It was confidential. So I think as a community, we need to reach out and just support each other. But again, I would kind of circle back to, I would like to know what the supports are now. I've heard from teachers that maybe not all schools have a full-time counselor, so I think that would be hugely important. And also, if we need to bring in additional resources to each school, I think that we definitely need to do that. Thank you.
Final question now. One last time we have Taylor Toledo with a question for Lisa Webster.
What are your thoughts on the IB program for our district?
The IB program, I think, I love the concept of it, right? It's globally focused. It matches some of the graduate profile for you all, and you've been instilled with this since elementary because we're an IB district. And from what I've observed, just watching you all and with the different public speaking focuses of this, I would say that most of you all, whether you realize it or not, have the capacity that a lot of adults don't in terms of presenting what your idea is, being risk takers to give your opinions and not sit back idly and watch things slide by. So, is there room for improvement? There is always room for improvement, right? We all have room for improvement in our lives that we work on every day to make our lives better. And I would hope that as we look at the IB program, that we institute improvements so it can make you and people who are following your shoes stronger people in the end and successful adults in our global community, which is getting smaller and smaller by the second, especially with technology, bringing people together faster. And I'm coming up on time. Thank you.
Great. Well, that was a great second round of questions, and it really shows me what's important to the students. You know, the ESL, mental health, IB, and of course, what comes next. Because I remember when I was a student, that was always on my mind. What comes next? I love being here, but I cannot wait to go on to that next thing. And I think it's pretty apparent from your questions too that you're not focused on going back to normal, whatever that used to be. You're focused on moving forward, keeping things going. And now we're going to close it out with two of our students, Liliana and Taylor, coming back up with some closing remarks for all of you. So thank you, 8, for making time to come here.
I just want to thank you guys for coming and talking to us. It means a lot to be able to have like one-on-one conversations with people that are going to end up making decisions that alter our lives. So I think that's pretty awesome. And I just want to thank you all for being here.
Yeah, I like what Taylor said. I think we're just really grateful to hear from you guys and just getting your opinion like firsthand. Like I know you guys really care about our student body and our staff and our whole district, so I think it really means a lot to us to coming out and speaking to us. Thank you.
And that will close things out for our student forum with our candidates. So again, thank you. And election, it is less than a week away now. So go ahead and fill out those ballots, turn them in. Don't let it sit there in your dashboard unsent. Thank you again, everybody. Appreciate it. Phil Lindeman with Crystal.